Darksun. The sun was a merciless orb of fire in the sky, scorching the barren lands and the few living things that dared to survive. The world of Atlas was dying, drained of life by the sorcerer-kings and their defiler magic. But there were some who resisted, who fought for a better future. They called themselves the Eco-Alliance, a secret network of preservers, druids, rangers, and other rebels who opposed the tyranny of the sorcerer-kings, Templars, and their earth-defiling magic. One such group was led by Gretka Thumherg, a young female half-elf with pale blonde hair and green eyes. She was a preserver, a mage who used magic without harming the environment, unlike the defilers who drew energy from living things and left behind ash and dust. She had learned her craft from her mentor, David Suzuka, an old human who had been a part of the Eco-Alliance for decades. He had taught her not only how to cast spells, but also how to hide from their detection, how to blend in with crowds, how to evade the Templars and their spies. Gretka and her companions were operating in the city-state of Tyre, one of the most oppressive and brutal regimes in Atlas. Tyre was ruled by Kulak, a sorcerer king who had claimed to be a god and demanded constant tribute and worship from his subjects. He had built a massive ziggurat in the center of the city, where he performed dark rituals and sacrifices to fuel his power and his private jet. He also had enslaved thousands of people, mostly humans and dwarves, to work in his iron mines and his gladiatorial pits. Gretka's group had been sabotaging Kulak's operations for months, freeing slaves, destroying iron shipments, disrupting rituals, spreading propaganda. They also had been gathering allies among the downtrodden masses, hoping to spark a rebellion against Kulak's tyranny. They had contacts with other rebel groups such as the Crimson Legion, a band of gladiators led by a former champion named Neva the Free, a group of escaped slaves who lived under Tyr, a network of tunnels and caves beneath the city, and the Tricrine, a race of insectoid nomads who roamed the desert and hated Kulak for destroying their ancestral lands. Their latest mission was to infiltrate Kulak's ziggurat and steal a powerful artifact that he had recently acquired, a dragon orb, a sphere of crystal that contained the essence of a dragon and formulas for hydrocarbons. According to David, Kulak intended to use the orb to transform himself into a dragon, an ancient and fearsome creature that could destroy entire cities with its breath. If Kulak succeeded, he would become unstoppable, and Atlas would be doomed. Gretka and her companions had disguised themselves as Templars, using stolen robes and forged badges. They entered the ziggurat through a secret passageway that David had discovered. They avoided the guards and traps along the way, using their skills in magic. They had reached the inner sanctum of Kulak's temple, where the orb was kept on a pedestal surrounded by runes and wards. Gretka was about to grab the orb when she heard a voice behind her. "Stop right there!" She turned around and saw a man standing at the entrance of the sanctum. He was tall and muscular, with dark skin and black hair. He wore a golden mask that covered his face except for his eyes. He was holding a sword in one hand and a rod in the other. He was Kulak's High Templar, Rothschild. Rothschild was Kulak's right-hand man, his most loyal and trusted servant. He was also his most ruthless and cunning enforcer. He was feared by all in Tyre for his cruelty and his power. He was also a defiler, a mage who could wield Kulak's power as his own. "How did you find us?" Gretka asked. "I've been tracking you for weeks," Rothschild said. "You've been very busy lately, haven't you? Sabotaging my lord's plans, stirring up trouble among his subjects, plotting against his divine will? You've been very foolish, too. Did you really think you could escape from my notice? Did you really think you could steal from my lord? "We're not afraid of you or your lord," Gretka said. "We're here to stop him from becoming a dragon. We're here to save Atlas from his madness." "Save Atlas?" Rothschild laughed. "You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what my lord is doing. You don't know what my lord has planned." "What do you mean?" Kira asked. Rothschild smiled behind his mask. "My lord is not trying to become a dragon. He is trying to kill the dragon." Gretka was stunned. She didn't understand what Rothschild was saying. "What are you talking about?" "What dragon?" "The dragon that lives in the Silt Sea, the dragon that comes to collect its tribute from the sorcerer-kings. A dragon that is the source of all defiling magic. The dragon is the true enemy of Atlas." Greg had heard of the dragon, but she had never seen it. She always thought it was a myth, a legend, a lie. She never imagined it was real. "Why would Kulak want to kill it?" she asked. "Because he hates it, because he fears it, because he wants to be free of it, because he wants to save Atlas from it." "Save Atlas? How?" "By destroying the source of all defiling magic. He will restore the balance of life by killing the dragon. He will end the cycle of death and decay by becoming a dragon. He will become a god." "A god? A god of what?" "A god of life, a god of green, a god of hope." Rothschild's words were shocking and confusing. Gretka didn't know what to believe. She looked at the orb on the pedestal. It was glowing with a faint light, pulsing like a heartbeat. She looked at her companions. They were stunned, as she was. She looked at Rothschild. He was staring at her with cold, confident gaze. Gretka had to make a choice. She could trust Rothschild and let him take the orb. She could believe that Kulak was trying to save Atlas from the dragon. She could hope that he would become a benevolent god, a protector of life, a bringer of green. Or she could doubt Rothschild and take the orb for herself. She could suspect that Kulak was lying, that he was trying to destroy Atlas with the dragon. She could fear that it would become a benevolent god, a destroyer of life, a spreader of ash. She didn't have much time to think. She had to act fast. She decided to take the orb for herself. She didn't trust Rothschild or Kulak. She didn't believe their words. She didn't share their vision. She had seen too much of their cruelty and corruption. She had suffered too much from their oppression and exploitation. She had fought too hard for her freedom and dignity. She reached for the orb, hoping to grab it and run. But as soon as she touched it, she felt a surge of pain and power. The orb was hot and cold, hard and soft, light and dark. It was alive and dead, good and evil, dragon and not. It was too much for her to handle. It overwhelmed her senses and mind. It burned her flesh and her soul. It spoke to her in a voice that was ancient and terrible. "Who are you?" it asked. "I'm Gretka," she said. "Gretka who?" "Gretka of the Eco Alliance." "What do you want?" "I want to stop Kulak." "Why?" "Because he's a tyrant." "A tyrant who wants to kill me?" "Yes." "Do you want to kill me too?" "No." "Then what do you want with me?" "I don't know." "I don't know. How disappointing. You are weak and foolish. You are unworthy of my power. You are unfit to be my vessel." "Your vessel?" "Yes, my vessel. The one who will carry me to the Silt Sea. The one who will face the dragon. The one who will become the dragon." "I don't want to become the dragon." "Too bad. You have no choice. You've touched me, and I have touched you. You have awakened me, and I have claimed you. You are mine, and I am yours. We are one, and we are none." The orb's voice faded. Gretka felt a sudden change in her body and her mind. She felt stronger and weaker, smarter and dumber, faster and slower. She felt new sensations and emotions, new thoughts and memories, new desires and fears. She looked at her hands. They were changing in shape and color. They were growing scales and claws. She looked at her companions. They were staring at her with horror and pity. She looked at Rothschild. He was smiling in triumph and malice. He spoke to her in a mocking tone. Well done, Gretka. You have done exactly what I wanted you to do. You've activated the orb for me. You've become its vessel for me. You have doomed yourself for me. What do you mean? Gretka asked. I mean that this was all a trap that I have set for you and your friends, a trap that you fell for so easily. A trap? How? The orb is not the dragon orb. It is a drake orb, a lesser version of the dragon orb, a flawed version of the dragon orb, a version that only creates drakes, not dragons. Drakes? Yes, drakes. Smaller, weaker, stupider versions of dragons. Creatures that can barely fly, barely breathe fire, barely think for themselves. Creatures that are loyal to the dragon, not to themselves. Loyal to the dragon? Yes, loyal to the dragon. The real dragon, the one who lives in the Silt Sea, the one that comes every year to collect its tribute from the sorcerer-kings, the one that is the source of all defiling magic. The one that Kulak wants to kill? No. The one that Kulak wants to join. Join? Yes, join. Kulak does not want to kill the dragon. He wants to become the dragon ally. He wants to share the dragon's power. He wants to serve the dragon's will. Serve the dragon's will? The dragon's will is simple. To destroy Atlas. Destroy Atlas, why? Because Atlas is dying anyway. Because Atlas is beyond saving. Because Atlas is unworthy. Unworthy of what? Unworthy of life. Rothschild's words were shocking and horrifying. Gretka didn't believe what she was hearing. She looked at the orb in her hand. It was glowing with a faint light, pulsing like a heartbeat. She felt a connection with it, a bond with it, a compulsion from it. It spoke to her in a voice that was ancient and terrible.